Hi, my name is Minesh Baxi, and I'm really excited to talk to my good friend ROCCO here. And I've published 10 books. I've been a business coach for 23 years, but trust me, the most important function, the role in my life that I get excited about is being a parent. And then ROCCO has parenting as a huge, high important value in his life as well. So ROCCO, welcome.
Thank you, Manish. Great to be here.
Yeah, so ROCCO, people may not know you, so do you want to give a quick introduction about what you do so that people can have a little bit idea and maybe a couple of things you've done in the past?
Sure. I've been in the mortgage industry for the last 22 years. I'm a father of two children, a 20-year-old, not so much a child anymore, and a 15-year-old. And also was in telecommunications for 11 years before that. So been in business for well over 3 decades, and for 2 of the decades I've been a dad.
Well, and you and I know this, your son and daughter, your son is the same age as my daughter, 20, my son is 15. So we have so much in common there, obviously. Okay. So here is, and I know we don't want to go into detail on challenges in life necessarily, but I know you had some challenging situation, especially with divorce and other things. Also, the 2007-8 crash happened as well. So give me a little bit of a sense for and our people who are watching is, how were you able to focus on the role of parenting?
Well, it was difficult at first, but what I really found that made it easier is that when you put your kids first and you pour into them. I can remember, it was just a time that I documented a lot of the things that we did together, took pictures, videos. We went on hikes. We went, we just did everything together. We were buddies. When I moved into my new house, I took a picture of them, our first meal together, things like that. And I was also doing a diary on social, and I started getting a lot of people reaching out to me on the side, just were inspired that I was doing so many things with my son, and my son enjoyed it because the divorce piece was really hard for him. He was an angry little man at that point. My daughter came into my life in my second marriage. She came from my wife now, but for him it was just him and I, and we had a split custody, so he was with me for a week and he'd be with her for a week type of thing. So that was a little bit cumbersome for him. But what it ended up being is that I spent a lot of time with him, even going to work and racing home to go pick him up from daycare and those types of things. Those are real life things that a lot of people, when they go through it, it's they pick up their child from daycare and they're running through traffic and they take it out on the kid. It's like you have to just clear your mind and go, this has nothing to do with him or her. It has to do with you. So the other thing that I did a lot during that time, not only was I spending time with him, but I decided to work on myself. Not to, there's no blame games. The other thing is never, ever, ever talk bad about his mother. Never. Can't do that. It's not productive for the child. It's not productive for yourself, because before you know it, it creates a lot of challenges between the relationship between you and your child, and then obviously between the child's parent, the other parent. Because the thing is as long as that child's around, you always have that common link, right? You made the child together. Guess what? There's going to be certain milestones in life that you're going to see each other again, and you don't want to be speaking to that other person after talking behind their back constantly and saying things. And I see a lot of relationships that end up that way, and it's sad because it's not a good place to be. It's like you don't air your laundry with your children. They're precious.
Very good point, and I agree with you 100%. Is in your case specifically, you said you made the child a priority, right? Mm-hmm. And the way you make anybody a priority is to give them more time, right? Okay. Right. If you give them more time, more energy, more money, then obviously we know that's a priority. Anytime somebody says, hey, that's a priority, but it's not in their calendar, I know it's not a priority, right? And so let me ask you, in the world we live in, it's not easy to influence children with so many different things going on in their life, so many people trying to influence your child. How do you inculcate values that are important to you in your children?
Well, I can't think of the artist at the moment. There's a country artist, and I've been watching use the name of the song, and it's really how you're leading your life, because they're going to mimic you. It doesn't matter how old they are, young or old, they're going to mimic you. And you know, I can tell you right now, I've had my son call me out on some things that, like, as he started getting a little bit older and recognizing, like, why'd you say that, or why'd you do that? And and catch you and call you out. And that's a good thing, because that means that I raised him correctly to understand. And every once in a while, we're all human, we slip. But I really think it's practice what you preach. It's lead by example, and just to make sure that you challenge the child, no matter the situation. A lot of people will walk on eggshells after they get in a divorce situation, because they're afraid that their household is going to be one that isn't going to be the chosen one for the child. And a parent's a parent. It's like there's got to be guardrails, there's got to be rules. And the other piece of it is it doesn't matter the situation. You mentioned that it happened around the crisis. Not only was I in crisis when it came to a marriage, I was financially in a crisis. My son and I, we used to go to IHOP for dinner because he ate for free, right? That was something that I could do and justify as a treat of, hey, let's go out. I know that on Tuesdays, I think it was, he got to eat for free, and I would order something, and he talks about it to this day of how we used to go to IHOP. Little simple things. It's really, and that's the other thing, that people think they have to have these big elaborate gifts and that, but like you said, time is so important to children. They recognize the time that's spent with them, and and also being present. Not this thing. This thing needs to go in a drawer. Get it away. If you're going to use it as a camera. Take pictures, make memories, but don't use it and steal that time and that energy and that focus away from that child.
Yeah, so true, so true. Now, one of the things which, in my case, my parents had no money, like literally we grew up very poor in India and all that stuff. But I knew we were a priority to my parents. Like I knew that, like everything in their life centered around us. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean obsession in terms of like they were mother henning us for that level, but the point was everything was planned around how to do something for the children. And I can remember the sacrifices my parents made, which are phenomenal. I mean, I just was like, wow, I don't know if I'm really as good a parent in terms of priority as my parents were. I just look back and it just blows my mind. Now, the second thing I want to really quickly ask you is, how do you impart some sense of direction in the world we live in about career? Because you and I know jobs, things and stuff are in a lot more flux than when we grew up. I mean, things are changing much faster. So how do you give direction to your son or daughter in the area of career?
Well, it's really based on listening to what they want to do first. And I made the mistake several times with him, but got a lot better at it now. It's just listen, process it. Maybe don't even answer the question at the moment. Do a little research and really understand where he's coming from. Just past 18 years old, he moved away. He moved to Tennessee. He went and worked at a car dealership and had several jobs within weeks at this career. I mean, at this dealership. And it's like, I almost didn't believe him that what was going on. And that's where I caught myself. I'm like, okay. So he did very well, but then he recognized some systemic issues at this dealership when it came to ethics, whether it was in sales or ownership or all these things. So I'm like, oh, he's paying attention. And he decided to vacate that position. Now, he didn't follow my advice of have another job before you quit a job. So he was sidelined for a couple of weeks, but it's just talking, right? He calls me more than I call him type of thing, which I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. I just saw my parents. My mom's like, can you call me once in a while? Right? We get so caught up in the hamster wheel of life. But he calls me quite often for advice. So I really think listening and understanding what it is that they want to do versus sometimes I feel we parent in a way. There was a point where he had talked about going into the military, and then all of a sudden I got more passionate about it than he did. And then on his 18th birthday, he was about to go to the recruiter office.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, because I surprised him. I was like, what are you doing today? He goes, what do you mean? I go, it's your birthday. I took the day off. I said, I want to spend time with you. And he's like, well, I'm going to the recruiter office. I said, okay, what are you going to do there? He's like, oh, we're just going to talk. I said, you're not talking. And so we went out to breakfast, and he ended up not going. But one thing I made sure that he did, I said, you need to make a phone call, not a text message. You need to talk to this person. You need to tell them, thank you, but I've chosen not to come in today. I don't know exactly what I want to do. Would I love him to go to college? Sure, but he's been working. He's been earning a good living. He's been on his own. He's taking care of his bills. He's saving money. So from that standpoint, I'm almost just letting him go and follow his own path, and just, like I said, just kind of bump him back into place when he needs to be bumped back into place. He's got aspirations to do bigger things in the future, but kids got a dream, right? And they need to find their way. And I just think the old adage, more than now than ever, even though every job posting has it, college is not as important as it once was, in my opinion. You can go on YouTube and get a college degree. Sounds kind of crazy, but the amount of things that you can learn, trades, the amount of trades that you can learn, and you can build this and build that and take things apart. There's just so much information at our fingertips that's free of charge as long as you have an internet connection. It's unbelievable. So
I agree with you 100%. I just talked about 3 mega trends in business. The first is AI. A lot of these children who are going to school, colleges, by the time they graduate, their degree will be obsolete. There is no question about it, like literally no question about it. Number 2 is more and more businesses are consolidating. Everything is becoming like a Walmart or an Amazon, one place, multiple things to be shopping. And the third thing which is happening, which I'm sure you are aware of, is that there is going to be a money transfer taking place as more and more baby boomers are retiring, and some of them, dying away. And the next generation has to be responsible to take care of money. It's like $68 trillion, which is going to be moving hands in the next 20 to 30 years. Because that's just a huge amount of money. So talking about money, what are a couple of things that you have either taught or you would like other children to learn about money?
One of the first things when you become qualified for it is to get a Roth IRA. And so, got a story for that. Got a story for everything, my wife tells me. I'm talking to my son one night, and I go, what are you doing? My taxes. I go, you're doing your own? Good for you. I said, did you buy your Roth yet? No. I said, well, you have until X amount of time to get it done. You knew all the guidelines and everything. So he dropped everything. He purchased a Roth that evening and put it on his taxes. And that I think that's really important. It's understanding the rule of 72, compounded interest, right? And those types of things, how things can grow if you just let them set aside and grow. It's like planting that seed in the garden. If you're watering it, it's going to grow. Obviously, with an IRA, you don't have to water it. You just have to leave it alone. Just leave it be. My teachings come from my past experiences. I had a 401k. I have one now, but I had one in my early years when I got here, where I'm at. I moved from the Midwest to Michigan, California, and I decided, well, I'm just going to liquidate it and put it into a house. And I've done the math on it. where it would be today from where it was when I started at 19 years old, because I was mentored. It wasn't by my parents, it was by somebody I worked with. And I started that 401k immediately. And same thing, when he was working here, he was working at a company and he had his money in a 401k. So anytime you can get into a 401k right away, a to be able to open up a Roth IRA and you contribute yourself. Because the thing is when you start striving and you get past a certain point of income, you're not qualified to do a Roth anymore. So it's like take advantage as a young person, because that's just going to it's going to be icing on the cake later on.
Interesting you should say that. I started my daughter's Roth IRA when she was 14. And
Okay.
for the same reason, right? I mean, it's nothing different, but I knew. And most parents don't know that a Roth IRA, after 5 years, you can withdraw practically every penny that has been put in there other than the growth. And you could use for a few things, which are, again, there are limitations. I'm not giving advice here. Yeah, you can buy a house, you can use it for college as well. You know what I'm saying, right? In some cases, you can use this for healthcare emergencies as well. And it's a lot more long-term, better investment than what people do with the 529s and all these other plans which are there. Now, again, if you have enough money to put in all those things, perfect, nothing wrong with that. But people don't think about retirement first. They think about college education first. And I think they don't know the other options as well, in my opinion. And regarding college, my children have been homeschooled, that no college, nothing for them, because I would like them to realize that they don't have any degrees to fall back on. And when you don't have a degree to fall back on, you got to get creative. You know what I'm saying? You got to get creative. And unless if you want to be a doctor or whatever else, that's different.
Right. No, yeah, there's and I'm not bagging on college whatsoever, because there are obviously several different types of positions that require a college education. But if somebody's out there trying to find themselves, I'll go all the way back to when I was a 18, 19, no, 17 or 18, I was working on a construction crew. And one of the main carpenters, we were sitting at lunch one day. I said, "So Jack, so you went to college?" You said, "Yeah. For it's like a bioengineer," and he's pounding nails. And he was in his 30s or maybe late 20s. I was young. Everybody probably seemed older than they really were, but yeah. And it was just like, and then as life went by, I would work with people at different companies, and I'd find out different degrees that they had, and what the degree was in had nothing to do with what they were doing. Nothing. And it was flabbergasted to me. It's like, maybe it's better to go work first and then go to college to improve your situation of where you're working or where you want to work.
Absolutely. I am shocked at how few schools, colleges, parents teach all of that stuff. To me, at age 16, start working somewhere. And again, you can change every 6 months, depending on what you find interesting, challenging, whatever that is. And in 2 years, by 16 to 18, you have some awareness of what you like or what you are passionate about. Now you have some more ideas on what direction to go in. Some direction may not be college, some direction may be college. I don't know. But to expect an 18-year-old who has never had real world practical experience in anything they are interested in, not like going and working at a McDonald's. My son works at Chick-fil-A. Yeah, it's just a fill-in job. He's not really learning great skills. He's just learning some discipline to go and work. You know what I'm talking about? But there are no real world skills that he's going to master, which are going to be helpful as a career, in my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. But like you said, trade, so different things. So anyway, he's turning 16 next year in a couple of months. And my plan is very simple. At 16, let him try different things until he becomes very clear on what he would like to do. My daughter's path have been more micromanaging, to be honest. And I made some mistakes there as well, but she loves speaking. Her gift is speaking. She's just now at a Toastmasters group today. And I've hired a coach to get her on a TEDx talk as well, because my friend organizes TEDx for a city, and I've known him for a long time. So he's teaching her how to apply and get on a TEDx stage. And she's 20. So my goal is within the next year, she can get on a TEDx stage as an example. She can start speaking to more groups because that's naturally her talent. And one of the things she's doing right now is helping people launch their podcast. She has done over 250 interviews, a lot of successful people. You know, you are one of them, right? Okay. And she now has enough knowledge and awareness to teach other people to be more visible, credible in terms of, podcasts and other things. But that's her talent. And slowly, steadily, she's moving in that direction. And I know she'll do really, really well with that. But I've been the main mentor in her life. I'm committed to her success, just like you are committed to your son's success as well. So last question, very much simple. Is there anything that maybe I should have covered, maybe I should have asked you that I didn't, that you would like to share with people who are watching, listening?
I guess when you get into a blended family, you can't push the kids together. You got to let them come together. So I'll end with this, a perfect example of, I wouldn't say we were much trying to push them together, but there was lots of times we would be frustrated because of the way that they interacted. They met each other. One was 10 and 4, 6 years apart. So, they grew up together for the most part, but recently she came in from Virginia. He came in from Tennessee. We all met in Michigan. She saw us. Hey, how you doing? She saw him. She started crying. So, kids they'll adapt and they'll come together when the time is right. And it's just parenting from a standpoint of your biological child to now parenting a child that's come into your life. The other things that I've done wrong is sometimes you have to be careful not to overparent. And you really need to communicate with your spouse and compare notes and make sure that, okay, if we're going to have good cop, bad cop, that's fine, because I think every relationship has that, even with biological children. Even though I don't think you should really do that, because then you have two sides of the coin. But from the standpoint of just agreeing on the way to parent the child, and you know what, that's our child together, but initially it was your child, so there's a certain way that child knew life as it was. You're new in that life. You have to be careful how heavy your hand is on raising that child. And I probably pushed her away for a while, but let back, and things started progressing forward. Things went into a much better direction. So yeah, blended families, it's a slippery slope, and you have to really be mindful of just because you raised one child one way doesn't mean that this child that's now come to your life is going to be raised the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have easier connection with my daughter than my son. We are very different personality wise, the disc by now. And it's interesting. But I have to make an effort because he's not old enough, mature enough to know how to bridge the relationship, right? Sure. I have to be the one. And it's work for me. It's not as natural as my daughter, but I have a responsibility because I'm the only one who cares to the level that anybody else is going to care.
Right.
And if I don't give him that attention, affection, and also let him know that he's important to me, it's not going to be fun for him or me in the future. So thanks, ROCCO, for taking your time out. I know you could have been doing other things. If people want to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you, ROCCO?
Well, my email is ROCCO, ROCCO .BLASE, BLASE @rate.com. And my phone number is 951-533-9139, 951-533-9139.
Perfect. Thank you, ROCCO, for taking the time. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to connecting again with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Minesh.